Hello, welcome to Bring the Joy of Reading Back to Your Struggling Readers with Start to Finish Books. When so much of reading has become about testing and politics, it's important to get back to what's fundamental, instilling a love for reading on students who are reluctant readers. Thank you to our presenter, Marianne McGinn, Technology Coordinator and former special ed teacher. Marianne will explain how her special education co-op put the joy back into reading for their struggling readers. Marianne will share strategies that work to combine the books with plays, movies, and curriculum units, and student stories, and she'll explain how they created a successful book club atmosphere. You'll also learn how her district used the Start to Finish data collection tools for both student assessment and confidence building, and how the books fit into their RTI triangle of reading interventions. So I would like to introduce, as soon as I have her unmuted, I would like to introduce Marianne McGinn.
Hi everyone. Welcome, and I'm glad to be talking to you. Let me first give you a little bit more background on myself and NSSEO, Northwest Suburban Special Ed Education Organization. I've been in education for 35 years, and I've always worked with Northwest Suburban Special Ed Organization in Mount Prospect, Illinois, which is in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. It's a special ed cooperative with 8 member districts, and it also serves and provides services to 44 districts for students who have hearing impairments or who are deaf. I started out as a special ed teacher at Kirk School, which is a school that serves students with severe multiple disabilities, cognitive impairments, and autism. And then I spent some years as an inclusion facilitator working in our 8 member districts, helping to include students in general ed classes. And then I moved into the role of technology and curriculum training specialist. And after a few years, I became the technology coordinator for the Northwest Suburban Special Ed Organization. And I've been doing that for about 6 years now. I have a master's in education in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis on literacy for students with disabilities. And I also really believe in the power of literacy for all students and believe that technology is a way for our students to get access to the curriculum and to achieve their goals. So some of the objectives that I have for today is to identify the features of the Start to Finish books that make them good texts for struggling readers, to hear how we incorporated Start to Finish into the curriculum in order to build reading skills, and to define how we used Start to Finish for assessment and see how we used it as part of our RTI interventions. So one of our first things is to have a poll in trying to figure out who's used Start to Finish.
Okay, the poll is in progress, and we have about 56% of you have already voted. Now we're up to 69%, so that's good. 75. We'll wait until we get to about 80%, and then we'll do a countdown, and we're about there. So we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll share the results of the poll. Can you see that, Marianne?
No, I don't see it.
Okay, so I'll just kind of let you know what the results are, and then we can go back to your PowerPoint. 67% said no experience at all with Start to Finish. And then we've got 20% on chapter book library and 20% on computer book library, so the same percentage for those. And then the online accessible library is 13% and all versions 7%. Okay? All right.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hide that now. Okay, we're back to you.
All right. So it looks like we have people at lots of different levels with Start to Finish. So you get better at reading by reading. And this research has really been around for a long time. And we do see this in our programs with our students. Those that read are more fluent, they build up vocabulary, and they are confident readers. The students in our programs are all special ed students, and most of them are struggling readers and are typically 2 or more years behind in reading. Students in our programs have severe learning disabilities, cognitive impairment, autism, social and emotional disabilities, multiple disabilities, including some students that are also deaf or blind. And because of their severe reading disabilities, many of our students are often placed in direct reading instruction programs. And oftentimes these students were practicing skills to help remediate deficits in decoding, fluency, and comprehension. And many times it felt like we were doing a lot of skill and drill to work on the deficits, but our students really didn't have time to work on practicing their skills and developing enjoyment for reading. So we wanted to ensure a way for students to generalize the skills they were working on and begin to enjoy reading. We wanted our students to be lifelong learners, and we know that literacy is the key. So we really felt that they needed time in their schedule to read, and that was really lacking. So Dance with the Girl You Brought. If anyone has heard Dr. Caroline Musselwhite, she says this often, and it kind of means take a look at what you have already. So we took a look at what materials we had, and we had a lot of start-to-finish books. And if you're not familiar with the start-to-finish books, they are high interest, low reading level, and they use what's called considerate text, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail later. The computer version and the online version have built-in data collection systems. The stories come in different formats. They're very easy to use, and they have engaging, recognizable titles. And many of the titles we find are also similar to the titles that students are expected to read in middle and high school. So there's familiar formats and new formats with the start-to-finish books. There's the paperback books. They have computer CDs. They have an audio book. And they have a new online version, which is also accessible by the iPad, and I would assume other devices that access the internet. It provides multiple ways for students to read the books and follow along with the principles of UDL. It gives our students a choice in how they want to read and to match their learning style and preferences. So I want to talk a little bit about the books and the differences in the library. There's a gold library and a blue library. And in the gold library, and as I explain this, let me back up a little bit, you'll kind of get a feel for what considerate text is. But in the gold library, the interest level is grades 5 through 12. And the readability level is grades 2 to 3. And I think this is one of the most important differences between the gold and the blue. So if you're looking for kids to read independently and they're reading at a 2nd or 3rd grade, I would kind of stick with the gold library. Books provide opportunities for students with lower level skills to have great literacy experiences. With the computer and online version, you can set your purpose for reading. You can provide scaffolds for students to differentiate learning. And some students will need to have on more supports in the beginning so that they might even be working on listening comprehension skills. But you have the control to set the different levels of supports. The syntax and vocabulary in the gold books are really conversational speech, which makes comprehension much easier. And 80% of the words are high-frequency words and then topic-specific vocabulary. And many of these words come from the Dolch and Fry lists. So these are great books for those students that are practicing sight words, because now they can read them in context. There's careful introduction of unfamiliar vocabulary and idioms, and a limited number of ideas for each sentence. Sentences aren't short and choppy. which can sometimes make comprehending difficult. And on the computer version, the auditory support is provided for individual words, and there's word-by-word highlighting. And you also have the ability to set the features that you want. So when we go to the Blue Library, it's really the same interest level as the Gold books. It's grades 5 through 12. But the reading level in the Blue book is grades 4 to 5. So for our students, that was a big jump. Again, there's opportunity for students who have limited reading skills to read a book if they have on all the supports. The syntax and the vocabulary are more formal in the Blue level than the Gold level. The Blue level has more complex and abstract vocabulary. So if you're looking to build up vocabulary, these books are great and might meet your students' needs. Idioms are introduced and sentences are longer. There's more varied sentence structure, and it is assumed if you're reading the Blue Library that you already have a good handle on mastery of those first and second grade sight words. If your students don't have that mastery, then I would be turning on more of the computer supports. The computer still highlights in the Blue level, but instead of highlighting word by word, it highlights sentence by sentence. So these books were sometimes a little bit more challenging for our students to read by themselves, but some of them were interested in the titles and the stories, and we had them use the Blue level, but we just had on more supports for them. Now what I want to do is show you the books and show you exactly what it looks like. What I'm going to do is show you with the start to finish online. So let me switch screens. All right, I'm on the start to finish online accessible library, and with this you get access to all the books. So let me go through, and because this is our online library and with our student information in there, I'm not really going to be able to show you the report section. But let me start it out. What I had in the beginning, I had the tab demo books, and you should know that if you wanted to try this out, they do have a couple demo books in there, so you can go to the website and go ahead and play around with the demo books on your own. Right now, what we have are the Gold level books and the Blue level books. And what I can do here is look at choose kind of the books by which level I want. So if I want the students to see just the Gold level books, I can set it by Gold. And I can set this in the preferences for particular students. But these are all the different Gold level books. Or I can set it to the Blue level books. And again, remember the Blue level is higher. It's more of a 3rd to 5th grade reading level. But what else I can do is I can sort these books by different categories. So I could sort it by theme, and I could say I just want adventure stories. Or you can see I can say that I want famous people and biographies. I want retold classics. Any of these themes that are listed on the drop-down menu here. I can also go by subject area. So in language arts, I can look at American authors. I can look at books that are plays. I can look at myths, legends, and folk tales. I can go and look at books that are tied to history. World history, I can look at books that are tied to U.S. history and government. I can look at books that are tied to different science. I can also sort books by authors. So if we're looking at some famous authors, I can look at it that way. So what I want to do is show you really the two different books. So I'm going to go to the levels, and I'm going to first go to gold, which again, that interest level is 5th grade to 12th grade, and the readability is 2nd to 3rd. And I'm going to go down to, I think it's Treasure Island. I think I have too many things hiding my screen here. Hold on. Get rid of this. Oh, you know what? I think I'm still somehow on demo mode. Sorry. All right, I'm just going to show you the demo for some reason. I'm not seeing all the other books, and I don't want to.
Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. Chapter 1, The Pirate's Sea Chest.
Okay, so you can see right now in the online version, it has a little gold label here, start to finish. So that's how you know that you're on the gold books. I can have
Chapter 1, The Pirate's Sea Chest.
I can have the stories
Read.
and the buttons read out loud.
Go forward.
The text is just one page of text.
Read.
My name is Jim Hawkins. My friends asked me to write down the story of Treasure Island from the beginning to the end. My friends do not want me to leave anything out. But there is one thing that I cannot tell you. I cannot tell you where Treasure Island is because there is still treasure on Treasure Island. I remember the story well. It all started when an old pirate came to stay at my father's inn. The pirate's name was Captain Bill Flint.
Okay, so you saw as it read, it highlighted each word, and they have actors that read the books. So the books, because of that, are very engaging for the students.
Go forward. Go.
I'm just going to
Go
go to
forward.
the end so that you can see
Go forward.
some of the built-in assessments.
Go forward.
And at the end of every chapter, they have a quiz. So I'll start this quiz.
Jim Hawkins's friends asked him to write down the story of blank.
And it's really a closed quiz here.
A black spot. A dead man. His friend. Treasure Island.
So I'm going to go through quickly and just click some of the answers.
Wooden chest, big in. Shoe, house, leg. Bed, wooden chest, nervous. One hand. Thick, nice, blind. Question, store name, black spot, the chest.
When I'm done, I hit the Done button.
Done.
And you can see here that I did get one wrong because it's in red. And if I hit Print,
Print.
I can get a printout of the assessment with the answers that I had. But if I just go to the next screen, it will make a chart. And it will keep this for each chapter, and it graphs it for the students. And you can print these out so that you have a copy and the kids can print it out. And I think that our students really like to see their progress and like to see how they do from chapter to chapter. So I'm going to quit this story. And then I'm going to go over here to the levels again. And I'm going to go to the blue level so that you can see the difference in the books. And then I'm going to choose, let me choose Call of the Wild. And I'm not sure, Karen, why I'm only seeing the demo books show up.
Hi, Marianne. I think you have to log it back in.
Oh, did I end up logging out?
Yeah, because you're logged into the demo mode, so you're just going to have the demo books. But if you log back into your regular login, then you'll have access to everything. Okay?
All right. Let me do that really quick. Sorry.
While you're doing that, I have a question that came in, and she's asking, is auditory feedback available on the quizzes in the CD versions?
I think you can. I think you've got to go in the preferences, but you know what? I think it's only available on the blue level. I think from the original CDs that you may not get auditory on those original gold CDs. So it might have been an upgrade to a newer version of the CDs or only available on the blue.
Okay. Okay. There you go.
Yep. All right, so now we're in the blue level. Now we're in the blue level.
And then, Marianne, when you get to the preferences part, somebody would like to know how it's accessible for students with low vision.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. All right, I'm going to turn off my audio now.
All right.
The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Retold by Molly Jackal. Chapter 1. Tricky Tom.
Okay, so now we're in a blue level, and you can see here we have the blue seal, so you know it's a blue book. Again, each of the chapters
Chapter 1.
get highlighted.
Trick.
You can see here in the blue level you have 2 pages of text, and the words are really a little smaller than on the gold level. Again, I can have everything read out loud.
Chapter 1. Tricky Tom. Tom? called Aunt Polly. No answer. Tom! She called again, even louder. No answer. Where is that boy? Aunt Polly asked herself. Aunt Polly looked all over the house, but did not find her nephew, Tom Sawyer, anywhere.
All right,
Read.
I'm going to stop it there. But you see, you can also get sentence
Sentences.
support and word support here.
Keywords.
So if I click on nephew,
Nephew,
it'll read that out loud.
nephew,
What you can do with the blue level is turn off that whole reading out loud so that the students only click on certain words or certain sentences. So that's a preference feature that you can set.
Go forward.
I'm going to go to the end to show you the assessments here.
Go forward.
I'm sorry, Mary Ann, just I
Yeah.
want to interject real quickly. Jerry is on our webinar, which
Okay.
and he just texted me, and he said that Auditory for Quizzes is available on the gold CDs as well.
Oh, great.
So,
Thank you.
So that's kind of cool. Hi, Jerry. We're glad you're here. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll mute myself now.
Okay.
Okay.
So in the question quiz,
Start.
I can go ahead and answer the questions here.
Why did Aunt Polly want to whip Tom? Because he didn't paint the fence. Why was Tom unhappy on Saturday? Because he had to paint Aunt Polly's fence. Why did Tom tell Ben that he liked painting the fence? Because Tom wanted to trick Ben into painting the fence. Why did Tom end up with treasures at the end of the day on Saturday? Because Tom found the treasures behind the fence.
So here on the quiz, I could have, again, I can set the preferences so that these don't talk out loud or that they can talk out loud. I'm going to hit done.
Done.
Again, I could print
Print.
everything out, or I can see it as a graph.
Go forward.
But I can also set the word meaning quizzes. I'm going to hit start here.
Tom yelled, "Quick, look behind you, Aunt!" The old lady whirled around, lifting her skirts out of danger. Tom yelled, "Quick, look behind you, Aunt!" The old lady whirled around, lifting her skirts out of danger. Turned quickly.
So I'm going to go ahead and
Full
just
of life
hit some
and
of the
destiny.
answers here, just kind of
When a cloud
randomly.
covers the sun. A feeling.
Done. Go forward.
And you can see it identifies which the students got right and which they got wrong. And then it will graph it for them. And it tells you here that the blue bar is the questions, the comprehension questions, and the yellow bar is the word meanings.
Go forward.
And then it'll bring
Chapter
us
2,
to the second chapter.
Lessons in Love.
Quit.
Okay, so some of the preferences that you can hit very easily up here is the auditory support. So if I could turn that off, I can turn the speak buttons on or off and speak quizzes. I can change my highlighting color. And if you have students that are scanning, you can change the scanning speed. And then you can change the interface color of the start to finish screen. And I can hit save for these. When you are logging in as a teacher, you really can set individual preferences for each student. And you can set it up really on which particular books you want them to read. You can limit that. And then you can set all those individual preferences for them and set a purpose for reading. And unfortunately, like I had said, this is our account, and I'm not really able to go in there and show you those preferences because it would have all of our student names there. So, do we have some additional questions now?
Okay, we do have a question here. They're asking if you can change the reading rate, and I think they mean the professional narration rate. And,
right.
Yeah.
That question probably comes up every time somebody asks about start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And really, you cannot change the rate, but the rate was set based on what's a good rate for comprehension. So it does seem, when you're first listening to it, that it might seem fast. But if you really slow the rate down, you're going to start to affect the fluency of the story, and you're going to affect comprehension. So there was a lot of research behind what was a good rate, and it was set at a rate that's good for fluency and a good model for students.
Okay, great. And that's the only question that we have right now. The other ones, we had a couple other ones, but I was able to answer those real quickly, just kind of sending a message back to the individual people. So,
right, great.
Oh, wait, another one just came in. Someone asked about font size or type. I think the question is asking if you can change that, and then there's also a second question. Are there any books with expository style text?
There are, well, let me go with the font. The way that you cannot change the size of the font or the type of font. That's all preset in here. So you really can't change any of that. And then they have both fiction and nonfiction titles in here in the library. And when you go on the website, you'll be able to see exactly which books they have and which titles that they have. So they do, I think you might find a little bit more expository in the core content, but you'll see fiction and nonfiction titles in the Start to Finish library.
Yes, and I think we went ahead and we counted all of our fiction books and all of our nonfiction books, and we came up with the nonfiction are about 40% of the library. Oh, here's another question. Let's see. So is this compatible with a program such as Zoom Text, where students with low vision can make it more accessible? I'm not familiar with Zoom Text. Are you familiar with that, Marianne?
Just a little. I am not sure. I would, if you left us your email, I can check with our vision teachers to see if they have used it. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say no, but I would double check with them.
Okay, and we can find out here too as well for you. And I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I just don't know what that is, what people do. So we can find that out for you, okay?
All right.
And I think that's it for now.
Okay. So, and this probably goes along with one of the other questions, but Common Core and the Start to Finish. So we know now with Common Core that standards demand that more significant amount of reading now focuses on informational text, and the Start to Finish novels have over 30 nonfiction titles in their library. So if you already have Start to Finish books or you're looking to get some, realize that they will support the Common Core standards for literacy. And you can see here in this chart that as you go up in grades, that more informational text is required for students. So our Start to Finish books are part of a balanced reading program. And how did we start to use the books? We used them in lots of different ways, and teachers were really creative, and they all had unique ways of incorporating the Start to Finish books. Some of our teachers used them as part of a guided reading group, a small group of students just reading the book together, And they might have focused on author studies when they were looking at Mark Twain or Robert Louis Stevenson or Edgar Allan Poe. Sometimes it was just a novel study where it was the whole class reading the novel together. We looked at them with thematic ties, and we tied them into different units that students were working on in science and social studies. So if they were working on national disasters, there were books to go along with that. Famous Americans, the Holocaust, the American Revolution. And some students or some teachers just use them for independent reading or self-selected reading. The books allows the students to build up their confidence as a reader, and it exposes them to a wide variety of texts, including biographies, adventure stories, mysteries, classics, and many more. Our students were really reading more and becoming better at reading, and they're really proud of the titles and the number of books they read. And we know that some students that are struggling readers don't judge a book by their cover, but they judge a book by how many pages, how many chapters, and the size of the print. And they also don't want to look like they're reading a baby book when others in the classrooms are reading novels. So the start to finish books are typically about 10 chapters with about 10 pages in a chapter. And this is manageable for students to read in small chunks. And it doesn't take long to get a chapter read. So we have seen success with our students because it's broken into small chunks, and they feel success right away. We asked one of our junior high classes why they liked the start to finish book, and one student was really enthusiastic about his response. He started to name all the titles that he had read, and he was someone who was very challenged in reading. But he said with great pride, "I've read Tom Sawyer, Treasure Island, Call of the Wild, Romeo and Juliet, and Huckleberry Finn. I read about Martin Luther King, Anne Frank, and lots of other books I would have never read if it wasn't for start to finish." And the look on his face and the pride he showed was priceless. His teacher was one that as the students read, she had them keep a list of books, and he was very proud of the list of books that he read. So Power Hour. This is what one of our schools did. A few years ago at Minor School, under the direction of the principal, Luann Cooper, and the assistant principal, Lisa Murphy, and the technology and curriculum training specialist, Pam Gio, they instituted a program called Power Hour. Now everyone knows in special ed we tend to adapt things. In Power Hour we laughed because Power Hour really was only about a half hour in length. But Power Hour stands for Positive Outcomes When Everyone Reads. And this was built into the school schedule. Everyone stopped and read the first half hour of the school day. The students at this school were all special ed students, and the majority of the students were junior high and high school and transition age. They picked a book that the whole school would read at the same time. And the focus was to build on language and literacy with a book club atmosphere. Everyone was involved with small groups of students. This included the teachers, the program assistants, the related service staff, even the PE teachers. Each group decided how they wanted to read the book, whether it was paperback book, whether it was audio file, or computer. And the groups changed each month or every 6 weeks so that students would have exposure to reading in different formats. They used iPads, they used classmate readers, they used computers, they used iPads. They had the smart board for whole class instruction following along. But it was also a way for the students to try out different pieces of technology and get introduced to how to use assistive technology to support them. The titles were decided by a team that was comprised of the assistant principal, Pam, the tech and curriculum training specialist, some teachers, the assistants, and the SLPs, and they picked out books for the year. And the titles were sometimes corresponded to other units that were part of the curriculum, but one year they did it and they tied it to character counts. They also came up with extension activities, and some of these included drawing pictures of the characters and scenes, making posters and book covers, and watching movies of the book or going to plays of the book, because we're lucky in our area, we do have some community facilities that take on children's books and put them into plays. And oftentimes we had the class see the movie or the play first so that they could get the big picture of the book and help with the background knowledge. And this was an idea presented to us by Dr. Karen Erickson from the North Carolina Literacy and Center for Disabilities. We had a lot of titles, but some of our favorites were Treasure Island, Building Wings, and you can find out a little bit later who our special guest was, Call of the Wild, and when they did that, they also did a fundraiser and raised money to donate to a local animal shelter. They did Christmas Carol around the holidays. Tom Sawyer, they wanted to do, it was a blue book, it was harder, but the kids were all interested in reading that one. And then Diary of Anne Frank was tied to the Holocaust and World War II. Families were involved in reading the books at home. And the kids also made polls that they put on their school webpage to make predictions, to talk about favorite parts or characters, or even to look at changing the ending. The Power Hour really tied everybody together in the school, and it really built into the schedule a time for everyone to read. I'm going to skip a little bit. So, delivery of instruction. The teacher used the books in a lot of different ways. We do have smartboards in all of our classrooms, so sometimes teachers did it as a whole class presentation. This allowed the kids to see it as a group. They took the quizzes together as a group. The teachers could have kids go up and circle words using the smart markers and still make it interactive for the whole class. We have computer labs, so students were able to read the books individually at their pace in the computer lab. Some students and some teachers really liked the paperback book, so that was really available for everybody. And again, the flexibility that we were able to have for our students was really nice. So in our RTI triangle at minor school and the high school, we had a few students that really could use Bridges to Literature, and that was one of our core reading programs. But our two main groups were really students that were in the SRA Corrective Reading Program or students that were really even in the Unique Learning Systems program. And we felt that both of those groups really needed to have start-to-finish books. The students that were in SRA, it's very much a direct instruction program and very skill-oriented. Students in Unique, especially those students at level 2 and level 3, they didn't have many opportunities to read books. So we really felt that it was important for kids to have access to books at their level. We have lots of interventions that we consider UDL because they are available to all of our students. We're fortunate enough to have network licenses or site licenses for these programs. And Start to Finish really fits into our intervention plan very easily. Again, the same features that I talked about, easy to implement, easy to adjust to student needs, and data collection makes it very appropriate and very easy to implement. So do we have a few questions here?
I don't have anything. Does anybody want to answer some or ask some questions? Put them in the questions panel. I'll give you a minute or so to put any questions in there that you might have. Or maybe we've answered the questions, Marianne.
All right, I'll keep going.
I think we're good. Yeah, okay, let's keep going. Okay.
So how did we start purchasing books? Really, we have had Start to Finish books for a long time. And when we first got them, we had them really at a lending library at our district level, and they were available to loan out to programs. And that worked for us for a while, but we really couldn't keep enough on our shelves. And teachers wanted classroom sets. So then we started buying classroom sets based on what teachers had requested. And when we looked at it, our most popular ones were books that were tied to the curriculum. And in our programs, we needed more gold books than blue. And it seemed like we had a lot of biographies, classics, and mysteries, and those were some of our big hits. But then we started looking at school-based purchasing. And it didn't take long for schools to realize that they wanted books in their own programs. They wanted them in their library and in their lab or their book room. So we purchased books based on requests from teachers. But we were also able to have teachers switch titles between buildings if we needed more books. So this expanded our copies of materials that we needed and the titles that were available. When the site licensing came out, we bought a site license for one of our schools, Timber Ridge School. And this is a K-8 school that serves students with social and emotional disabilities, many of which were also struggling readers. So now we could burn as many CDs as we needed, and we could send home the CDs with the students for a take-home rate. So that really opened up another level for us. And it was a good option because each teacher could have as many copies as they needed. And then I think, and maybe it's already 2 years, the Start to Finish Online came out. And when this came out, we decided to pilot it at Minor School, since Timber Ridge already had the unlimited site license. And really, I believe the online version totally beats out all the other versions and the scenarios for us. The students could log in anywhere, and their data was saved. Teachers and administrators could get school-wide reports and could look up the data on any students. The reports seemed to be a little bit more comprehensive. The students weren't tied to a particular computer as they were with the CD. And this truly made it more universal for us. So after we got Minor set up, really our other school, Timber Ridge, wanted the online version too. And we had decided that the benefits were well worth it. It also allowed us to start to use the Start to Finish on the iPad, and many of our schools now have iPads as part of their technology tools. So not only could the students read the books on the iPads, but the teachers and admins could use their iPad to kind of quickly go in, change preferences, pull up reports. And of course, for Start to Finish Online, you need to have internet access. So we have one other group of students that NSSEO recently started providing services to, and these were our students that were deaf and hard of hearing. And many students who are deaf and hard of hearing do read below grade level. And although lots of them could not take advantage of that audio component, the teachers were very interested in the books and the fact that they are high interest and low vocabulary. And the features of considerate text work very well for these students. So we're excited to see this group of students start using the materials to help build up their literacy skills and to enjoy reading. So some of the data that we collected was the number of books read successfully, the data from the comprehension quizzes, the vocabulary quizzes, and the words clicked on. We had some teachers that made a requirement that with a certain chapter, students needed to have an 80% on the comprehension quiz, or they needed to read that chapter over. But the data collection is really, really nice on the Start to Finish books. And again, it is accessible on that online version from any computer. So this is an example of the online Start to Finish sample. Again, on each of these, and you can drill down a little bit further once you look at a chapter, you can see more information from the student and how they're doing. But and you can print it out so you can have a report. You can kind of also see on the online version on a whole what the average is for the group of students or even the school in comprehension on the chapter tests. So some of our teachers also, started to look at patterns. They looked at the level of the books the kids were reading, the levels that they were choosing on their own and what their scores were, the number of books that they read, how long they were spending reading a chapter, the scores on the quizzes, and the words clicked on. Some students really like the paperback book, so they would also just read the book, the paperback book, and then take the quiz online.
Marianne, do we
Yes.
have time for a couple questions? I got
Sure.
questions in here. Okay. Do students start making text-to-self and text-to-text connections when using the books?
Yes, and I would say that that's happening when we are doing the guided reading with the students. When they're doing it by themselves, because of the level of our students, they probably need a little bit more support with that, but we have seen a lot of growth with our students.
Okay, great. And then another one, someone else asked, are you tracking student use beyond the school day?
We aren't, but we have really talked about that, and our principal at the two different schools is really interested in looking at that. So we're trying to figure out which students are using it after school. And we had bought it when we bought Minors. We did buy it during extended school year so that kids had an opportunity to read books in the school or during the summer.
Oh, okay. I had somebody at the summit just a couple of days ago say that they used it for a summer school program. Mm-hmm. Okay. The cost, I can answer this one. The cost of start to finish online for a school site, and this is through the end of December. I do believe there's a plan for this to go up, but I don't think it's official yet. But it possibly might be going up at the beginning of next year. But for now, it's $429 for the whole entire school to have access at school and at home. And then the last question is, it says, I'm using these books with ELL students, and it's great for grammar and vocabulary. So we got that. And then I do have one other thing that somebody was asking about projection, or was asking about increasing the font size. And that can be increased through projection. And a lot of the students have larger monitors. So if they do have a larger monitor, the font size is going to appear larger on that. So I hope that helps to answer that question. The person that asked that too, we're going to find more specific answers. I do have your email address, but I just need you to let me know what state you're in. Okay? Okay, Marianne, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Okay. So when it comes to professional development, we always say don't reinvent the wheel. Really, on the Don Johnson website, there is quite a bit of support for teachers and for training. So there's training 30 minutes tutorials, there's show me how videos, there's extra support, there's lists. And because these books are at an interest level from grades 5 to 12, there are some books that have a little bit more mature content. So you can get a list like that from the website. There's a list of correlations to Lexile levels, there's fluency guide, and there's a comprehension guide. We use a lot of this with our training, with our school staff. So any types of professional development for your staff that is successful? Karen, did you want to run the poll on this? Do we have enough time?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was responding to a question and I lost track of our place. Okay, yeah, let me run this poll real quick here. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, there's the poll. Go ahead and give us your answer. What's your preference for professional development? So go ahead and vote on the poll so Marianne can see what you guys think. And I can see, okay, we've got some people that are voting here. Good. We've got about 24% voting. So we're going to try and get up to at least 80% of you voting. Very good. I'm glad to see a lot of you like to learn through webinars, because I like to do the webinars here. I also have a question coming in, and yes, $429 is for the whole school, for all the kids in the whole school, and it's for school use and home use as well. It's an online login and for 1 whole year. Okay. Let's see, we've got about 50% voting, so go ahead and continue to vote on your preference for professional development. Okay. Webinar is still in the lead. Let's get a couple more people to put their opinion in there. Okay, and then I'll close it in about 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close it, and I'll share it with you guys. Okay, so we've got 44% of you say that webinars are your preference for professional development. I encourage you guys to let us know what topics you're interested in related to literacy, reading and writing. We'd love to start developing new webinars for you guys to let you know different things that you want to know. The next, let's see, I guess we have a tie. Workshops and tutorials are tied, and then the next is one-on-one coaching. So, and it's funny, it's all kind of mathematically interesting. Webinars 44%, workshops and tutorials 22%, and one-on-one coaching 11%. So it's kind of interesting. Okay, Marianne, I'm going back to you.
Okay. So for professional development, and it is changing, we are starting to see that too. More of our teachers are looking at webinars. What we have done is we do have some after-school mini classes. We have half-day workshops. We have after-school workshops. Those, the difference between the after-school workshop is probably at the end of the school day, and it's more 3:30 to 5. An after-school mini class is just a short time period after buses. But one of the things that we do when we do the training is we focus on the difference between the gold and the blue. We show staff how to set the preferences and how to look at the data. So here are some quotes that we had from students that use the books. I'm not going to read all of these, but let me point out a few. I like start to finish because it tests what I can remember from each chapter, and it challenges us. And I think some of our kids were in programs that had used, I think it's Accelerated Reader, where they really have to take a test after the whole book. And here the kids found it much more successful to take those tests after each chapter rather than really listening to the whole book and then taking a test. It reads to me, I love it, they're cool, I can increase my reading. Teacher quotes, I really like the data that was easy to access to track how students performed on the chapter books. I really like how it's structured for independent student work. A couple years ago, we had, and I can't believe it's already a couple years, one of our themes for our whole year was building wings and growing with technology. So we invited, because we're close enough actually to Don Johnson Incorporated, we invited Don to come out, and he was actually our keynote speaker for our opening day institute with all of our staff. So he talked to the staff about reading and about his struggles as a struggling reader. And then later on in the school year, we had many of the kids read the book Building Wings that Don wrote and what it feels like to be a struggling reader. So Don came out and visited with some of the classrooms, and the kids asked him different questions, and they even talked to him about what it feels like to be an author. So that was really exciting for our staff and for our students. He went to 2 of our schools along with Ruth and Mary. And then what's new? I just want to touch a little bit on the Start to Finish core curriculum, and that's a new product that Don Johnston is working on, and it is extending those books with a teacher guide with lesson plans, end of the book tests, phonics lessons, writing activities, rubrics, and data collection tools. And we're actually piloting it at a couple classrooms at Minor School. And we have really received great feedback from teachers. The lesson plans are very easy to follow, and they're reporting back to us that they are very surprised at their students' interest in it and how they are participating and the progress that they're making. Really, they did not expect the students to be able to answer some of the questions that are set up in the lesson plan. So it's really exciting to see how that's going to grow.
Marianne, Jerry just sent me a little message from him and Don, and it said that after reading Building Wings, ask Don to Skype with you, and he will if he can, and he loves doing that. So, so just
Great.
encouraging you guys, if you read Building Wings online, you can go on our website, donjohnston.com, and then go to the Start to Finish online part of the website, and you can read Building Wings. I believe it's the second tab. And then see if you can Skype with him. He's really just a wonderful, interesting, great person to talk to. So that might be a fun thing to do in your class too. Okay.
I'm not sure if there's any more questions, but I just wanted to thank people for listening. And really, our program loves the Start to Finish books in all the different formats, and we feel very fortunate that we have the online subscriptions and lots of the paperback novels.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Marianne. We just so much appreciate you talking about your experiences and your knowledge about Start to Finish. And it's a joy for us to hear how much you and your kids enjoy it and how much you're getting out of it. So that's great. I do have one more question, and somebody asked how to they use the word sell. How to sell this to my principal or director? How do you suggest I sell this to my principal or director is the question.
Yeah, I know. I think I would go to the website to and print out some of the information that they have about the books. And I would also maybe go to the Start to Finish online, the demo section, so that they can see exactly what the books are. But I found that it sells itself when I start to explain the wealth of books that you get, the readability level, and the access that you get. You know, even the thought that the online version, it is a subscription, it's a yearly subscription, but it's school-wide, it's for home and school, and you get access to every single title. So I think I would just show them some samples, and if they ever wanted to talk to another school, you know, you can have them call us.
Okay, great. And then just so you guys know, my email is kbess@donjohnston.com. I'd also love to answer any questions or help you out in any way, and or have somebody else contact you if you'd like that. Anyway, we can help you get more kids reading and get those kids increasing in their literacy and reading level. It would be wonderful. So thank you, Marianne. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a wonderful day today, and I'll leave it open for another couple of minutes. Marianne and I will stay on just in case anybody has any last-minute questions. But officially, we're going to end the webinar right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.